some and I will cheer y'all up a little bit. Excuse me. That's my hope. So resonance. We think of it in music with instruments, but what else? I've been joking with people that I will be speaking today about good vibes. As to me, resonance truly means vibrating with something else. I did have to go look up an official definition though. Consonance refers to the pleasant and harmonious combination of sounds, while resonance describes the amplification of those sounds due to natural frequency. A forced vibration occurs at the same or nearly the same frequency. Both concepts are important in music, but they focus on different aspects of sound perception. Consonance is pleasantness and harmony, like an a cappella choir. Resonance is more an amplification, like at a concert, not the volume of the speakers, but the joining in of the audience in the same notes on the same beat. In physics, it's the increase in the amplitude of an oscillation of a system under the influence of a periodic force whose frequency is close to that of the system's natural frequency. Let's say you're tracing a Tibetan singing bowl with a felt-tipped wood wand, and as you go around and the bowl's tone amplifies, a nearby bowl of the same size will also begin to vibrate. Then figuratively, resonance is something that evokes an association or a strong emotion. We can resonate with another person's ideas. It's what unites groups together in so many circumstances. Perhaps you felt it when we did our longer group meditation a few weeks ago. Perhaps you have felt it in a group prayer or sitting with family by someone's bedside. Your chest may actually rise and fill with that shared vibration. Or you may recognize a desire to withdraw when you meet someone with whom you do not vibe, and you figure it out pretty quickly. That disharmony can almost feel like actual static. Multiple writers, mostly in Eastern Europe, from what I've turned up, write about the philosophy of resonance in religion. Gerd Tyson of Germany writes about how in human experience, resonance is not merely an objective phenomenon, for the subjective reaction of the person involved is also taken into account. What we encounter sets off profound vibrations in us. It affects both our emotions and our sense of purpose. This concept came to me as I was thinking about that one author, Lynn McTaggart, wrote about the measurable magnification of results when people meditate together. To me, that signaled resonance in a profound way, both in physics, in the world's experiences, and in our hearts. I began to wonder about the effects of the news on all of us, about the effects of coming together here, and others whom we like and presumably agree with on many things. It made me wonder if large population resonances create more things of a similar nature. If people in a larger and larger group begin to lose hope, do things in reality shift in the direction of which they fear? Or if a large population is feeling great hope and directing their intention toward larger prosperities and peaceful outcomes, does that result in better outcomes? such as the thousands of people who are meditating toward peace in Sri Lanka for 8 days, which was followed by a significant reduction in violence. In essence, do our vibes actually create a reality? If atomic quarks vary based on observation, or in other words, their position is measured based on when and how you look at it, then is our reality also based on how we look at it? Is our reality actually created by our perspective of it? How does that affect the ethics of how we approach viewing things? Is optimism possibly more ethical? I know at least one human who believes that having what they would consider an educated view of the dangers and evils of the world is important. It's a way to survive and possibly is more ethical than denying the negatives of the world. For example, how can a nation defend itself if it does not stay aware of all who might send it harm? It does seem that many people on both sides of the American political spectrum are approaching life with the fear of the negatives and their assumed enemies create. While locking our doors at night hopefully does not signal to the universe that we expect a robbery, if masses of people, millions of people, fearing an outcome creates dissonance with another group, their group resonance around a fear puts them at disharmony with people whom they believe do the things they fear. As an example, those who fear and abhor abortion feel a great dissonance with people who they assume are pro abortion, instead of understanding that they may share values with people who are pro options. Then, those defending their pro option position must defend against the other group, which creates more dissonance. Here, then, would it be beneficial for these two groups to find a way to resonate? What beliefs do they share? What emotions do they share? Without the lenses of fear and anger in front of us, would we be able to find a so called middle ground or solutions that could create resonance between them? Let's examine a lighter topic to make it easier to envision. Animal welfare is a value my friend and I share, but we have found a place where we disagree. She has embraced vegetarianism. I have attempted that and found that my body does much better with some animal protein. Or maybe my mind makes my body think that. However, my husband and I have embraced purchasing meat from sources that raise their animals humanely without putting them in cages, crates, sources that allow them to roam on farmland, and ideally also use humane processes, putting them down by reducing travel and fear. How did my friend and I create some resonance around the issue of animal welfare? My husband and I made the deal to not eat meat outside of our home, outside of what we order from known sources. Thus, not participating in the industrial farming practices embraced at most restaurants. We also don't eat meat every day, have embraced beans and fish and other sources of protein. Together, while we are not necessarily harmonized, my friends and our actions resonate and hopefully create a better outcome in some way. Is resonance simply compromise then? Well, no. Two families trying to figure out where to spend the holidays may reach a compromise on location, but that does not mean that they will be resonating with whatever the outcome is for the holiday or resonating with each other. More than compromise, resonance requires people to find things on which they agree, on which they share a vibe, and to focus those vibrations together. Grant me a moment here to credit Bohan Zelic, who is a research professor of philosophy and theology at the University of Ljubljana in Slovenia, with the following quote about the resonance theory of a German sociologist, Armin Rosa. According to Rosa, there is an anthropologically ingrained desire for resonance in man and a fear of the silence in the world. This fear can lead to collective religious violence, which seeks to ensure resonance with the world by force, which is not possible because resonance can neither be controlled nor forced. And because both sides must be active in resonance to speak with their voice, which, however, is incompatible with coercion. You may be able to think of some hostilities that some groups have undertaken in an attempt to not only control the activities of others, but also to control their thinking. However, we know from wrong notes on a piano that banging them louder does not make them sound better. Salick goes on to say, vertical resonance is resonance with transcendence. The experience of transcendence awakens in people an existential hope. Therefore, they tend to experience transcendence in order to draw existential hope from it, which is the hope that the world and their life have meaning. Vertical resonances are sources of human existential hope and therefore meaning. He points out that this can come from religion, from art, from history, and from nature. A modern witch's coven participating in rituals outside in nature based on the movement of the planet around the sun and the movement of the moon around our planet is also experiencing this vertical resonance, and usually doing so with the hope of modifying reality to resonate with their intentions. The same could be said of group prayer, as we've learned from group meditation. On the one hand, Zalick says, the universe is silent and does not speak to us. On the other hand, the universe is resonant. We cannot decide between these two options with the help of logic and reason, but the decision depends on the individual's feeling, and this depends on their sensibility and disposition for resonance. As I mentioned in the beginning, there's truly something to be said for vibing with people, vibing with a situation and with decisions. To quote Zalick one more time, thus religion, if understood through the lens of Rosa's theory of resonance, is a resonant attitude toward the world that allows an individual to feel supported and even safe in the world that responds and accommodates them. This leads me to my original thoughts on basically changing the world. I would wager that people who pray together en masse are sending out a vibration that has some effect on reality. Many people speak to the power of prayer. I myself have said up here that I believe the many people praying for me in my unconscious state helps me survive. We have also learned that meditation in groups, even small groups, can create measurable results by focusing for a time. In that book, it was 10 solid minutes on a desired positive outcome. To quote Niels Henrik Gregersen from the University of Copenhagen in Denmark, resonance experiences are formative for religious experiences and are thus highly informative for contemporary religious reflection and ethics. If we are able to use our vibrations for good, should we? Here we are in a Unitarian Universalist church that has united many theologies, a church that commits to honoring diversity with inclusivity, one that emphasizes social justice over adherence to a specific doctrine. I am probably not alone in feeling a vibe in this room. And I've been enjoying people I've met who are open to asking questions and exploring how we can make an impact without insisting people follow our text, our founders, our concepts of right and wrong. That said, ethics can be an interesting debate within certain topics, including one I've already mentioned, as well as things like medical intervention near the time of death, access to education, access to food and a home if we are not able to contribute to capitalism, and other subjects. It can make ethics less straightforward. However, how many of us can relate to going with a gut feeling when debating on what to do in a situation? Is that gut feeling that often stems from within our personal ethics a resonance of something larger? I want to shift for a moment to get you to feeling something at some point in your life. Has there been a time of year that was an emotional time? An emotional date that reflects something dramatic that happened in your life? Is there or has there been a date that was more than a simple anniversary and that actually held an emotional impact? Our planet is following this repetitive course, coming around the sun once a year, meaning we are riding through space and repeatedly hitting a space that we've ridden through before. Is an emotional anniversary more than a mental replaying of something in the past? Is it also riding through the reverberations that we passed through 1 year prior? That might seem ridiculous when we compare the size of planets to the experiences of humans to the quirky quarks in subatomic particles. But perhaps that is one of the dimensions we don't know how to measure. A dimension of harmonizing or resonating in a place in space we've passed through before. Even a space around the entire sun. If we can feel that, feel something in this same space that this giant rock took us through 1 year ago as it swung around a star, then perhaps our impact is greater than we've ever imagined. If our impact is such that it leaves a mark that can impact us more than psychologically, but also physically, after we have traveled about 585,089,000 miles and come around to the same space, then perhaps we truly need to consider our impact and our ability to give not just things, but to give love. And if our impact of love, all 32 Eskimo versions of it, can make an impact somehow on space, perhaps the ethical question of what we should do is less about issues and more about resonance. Perhaps the ethical thing to do is to, in whatever ways we can, focus on sending love So what does that mean when we go back to the things running through our minds now? The social media craziness, the questionable government actions that seem geared toward benefiting only a small group, the environmental impact of human behaviors, the questionable future of artificial intelligence and how we will choose to use it. When we feel too small to make a difference, what kind of difference does love make? There are many, many people who believe in the power of manifestation, that the belief in and thoughts for good things create good things. Personally, I often say I'm the luckiest girl in the world because I am consistently delighted by things that happen to me and for me. While many thank a higher power for all the good that has come into their life, it has also struck me that sometimes the way things play out and the way the dice roll may be completely random. Maybe. Or is manifestation a reflection of my resonance with the things I want? I made a note for myself a month ago, questioning this very thought when I was awakened on the sofa by the ticking of a clock I had just replaced the battery in after months of silence. And it woke me in time to finish last month's presentation. I would bet we have all experienced some incredible coincidence at least once in our lives that made us question if coincidence is truly random or part of a larger plan or game. Are coincidences and the seemingly magical way they play out sometimes possibly a way we resonate with something else in this world? A little over a year ago, in 2024, scientists at the Large Hadron Collider were able to observe top quarks, which are the heaviest compared to their counterparts up, down, charm, strange, and bottom. NASA Space News reported that by studying these fundamental particles, scientists can draw connections between the forces that govern atomic structures and the events that shaped galaxies and stars. Then, also in 2024, Gregerson of Copenhagen, who I quoted earlier, wrote an essay called Resonance from Physics to Theology. And then a year later, I began to wonder, is there a religion that is based around resonance? Are manifestation, good vibes, and group prayer and anniversaries all related on a vibrational level? There's a phenomenon called multiple independent discovery, the hypothesis that most scientific breakthroughs are made more or less independently, yet simultaneously by multiple researchers. Multiple discovery is a concept of the evolution of scientific thinking as a social development based on collective efforts. It removes a bit of the magical element to discoveries by noting that information is getting shared globally and people are working towards solutions all over the world simultaneously. That said, perhaps there's also a little resonance there. And if scientists are resonating toward discoveries, and if we are resonating with space, perhaps the question of if we should focus together on more positive outcomes is actually a simple one. Yes, of course we should. We should continue to resonate with what pleases us, with what brings us joy and health and safety to larger and larger groups. We should continue to say blessings over babies and the ill, continue to meditate together with a shared goal, and continue to acknowledge with gratitude all the good when it comes. We should continue to resonate with gratitude. Like a crowd of music lovers, thumping in rhythm together, sharing joy and energy. We should know that worry and fear are far less productive for the betterment of life for all around us than the magic, the scientific resonance of sharing and spreading joy and love. Thank you.